Cost of living crisis worse. That is a Reform Party supporter. That is what they're like.
Morning people, welcome back to F Politics. Remember I said I'm working on that big what actually is this Labour government video? Well, I'm filming it in different locations across the country, and one of those locations is a protest. And while I was filming, some Reform Party supporters kept interrupting me, because that's just the sort of people they are. And so eventually I decided that if they're so desperate for my attention, we should see how that plays out for them. Him, because he's one of the...
Trump.
Sorry, you okay?
We're good.
Cool. Actually standing up for the people of Yemen
Nigel Farage must be Farage.
against the sale of weapons that were being used to kill for...
Rupert Lowe's doing a fantastic job.
Okay, you're one of those. Cool.
One of those.
Okay, cool. All right, so we've got some Reform Party supporters here.
Yeah, we want to talk about reform, Fleming.
Let's do that. So you're a supporter of the Reform Party?
Yep.
Cool. Why was that party created?
Well, it kind of evolved out of the Brexit party,
Cool, so
but it's not the Brexit party
So
now.
it's well, I mean,
It's-
Nigel Farage only exists because on our screens because he was head of UKIP, which was about Brexit. The Reform Party, which is about Brexit.
We've moved on from Brexit.
Okay, but Nigel Farage still supports Brexit, and he says it's not being done correctly. So the
hasn't.
leader of your party, and what is their Brexit policy? What is the Reform Party's Brexit policy? Okay.
So from a legal perspective, we've left the EU,
Okay.
but we've taken the costs, the detriments of leaving the EU, of which
are?
there are some.
Which
Well,
are?
Let me continue.
Which
Don't
are?
keep
What are
jumping
they?
in.
What are they?
So we've got some detriments,
What
but
are
we
they? What are
haven't
they?
gained the benefits.
What are the detriments?
Because the Tory
What are the
government,
detriments?
and certainly Keir Starmer,
What are the detriments?
that maybe getting cheap labour into this country.
So it hasn't
Cheap,
damaged our trade at all?
legal labour.
So it hasn't damaged our trade.
Well, COVID, lockdowns have damaged.
so has-
there's an international...
So has it damaged our trade at all?
Check.
Yes or no?
Yes, because
Yes.
we haven't gained the benefits. We haven't gained the
so
benefits.
it has damaged our trade.
We have because it
Yes.
hasn't been applied
So that's a yes
correctly.
then, yes?
Because it hasn't been applied.
So that's a yes.
Because it hasn't
Just
been
say- just say
applied
yes. I'm asking
properly.
a simple question.
Because
Has Brexit damaged our trade?
You want a gotcha moment, don't you, Fleming?
Say yes or no.
We
It's a
haven't
basic question.
benefited from it
It's a
because
basic
we
question.
haven't
It's a
applied.
basic
We,
question.
our government,
See how he
our
can't answer the
governments
question?
have not
I'm asking him
applied
simply, has Brexit damaged our trade? And he's refusing to answer. Can you answer the question? Has Brexit damaged
because
our trade?
it's not been applied.
Say yes or no.
There
It's a
was
yes
some.
or no question.
I've already said. It's the first thing I said. There's been some
Has Brexit-
deleterious impact
answer the question.
of Brexit because
Answer
we
the
haven't
question.
applied the
Has Brexit
benefits
damaged our trade?
because it's not been applied properly.
The British Chamber of Commerce interviewed businesses across the UK, and they found that 56% of UK businesses say Brexit has damaged our trade, and
Who did that report?
and he's refusing
Where
to
were
answer the question.
Where were that stats from?
Well, why don't you answer the question
Who were
yourself
the
then?
stats from that you just cited?
British Chamber of Commerce.
British Chamber of Commerce.
So
right.
yeah. So like, unless you think you know better than them, again, has Brexit damaged our trade?
Why is Brexit living in your head
Again,
still?
because
why
it's
is the subject
because
of Brexit
it's affecting
in
the cost
your
of living
head?
crisis, and people are struggling.
Really? How's that? Explain that.
Well, if you want to answer the
How's
question,
the cost of living crisis been caused by Brexit?
is trade linked to the
I
cost of
asked
living
the
crisis?
question. You don't
Yeah,
ask,
yeah,
ask
yeah,
the question
yeah.
with a question.
But you refuse to answer my
How
question.
has Brexit caused the cost of living crisis?
It's made. I didn't say cause. I said it's making it worse.
Well, you did say caused.
I didn't. I said.
You
You want me to rewind back the tape to see what I actually said? Okay, with pleasure. Because
Brexit
it's affecting the
in
cost of
your
living
head.
crisis, and people are struggling. See, these people have been radicalized into believing that all Remainers believe that all of our economic problems are exclusively down to Brexit. And so if they can point to anything else, like COVID, like Ukraine, that's damaging our economy, that means that Brexit can't be damaging our economy. Which is why I reminded him what I actually said. I said affecting. Affecting does not mean caused. This is basic language here.
Okay, well, let's change that.
Okay,
again.
so
how is it affecting the cost of living?
Well, I said it's via the trade, which you refuse to answer a question on.
Via the trade.
By the damage to trade. Damage to trade.
What is the damage to trade?
56% of businesses are finding it harder to sell to the EU. It's added red tape.
Is the EU our only market?
It's our main market. We do 46% of our trade with the EU.
Right.
I mean, do you deny that? Do you think we trade more with, like, I don't know, Texas or something like that? Or do you think we trade more on the other side of the planet?
Why'd you bring up Texas?
Oh, well,
odd example.
Pick another place. You see how he can't answer the question?
Australia,
you see how he can't answer the
Singapore,
question?
America, Canada,
Has
New Zealand,
Brexit damaged our
Australia,
trade? Yes or
Switzerland?
no?
Because
yes
it
or
hasn't
no?
been applied.
Can you say a yes? Can you say a yes? Can you just say yes or no? Can you just say yes?
Can you name a single piece of EU legislation that Britain does not have anymore?
The EU Citizens' Rights Directive,
No, a piece of law, a piece of British law that we acquired because of the EU.
For the record, Citizens' Rights Directive was a spot-on answer because that is the law that basically governs the EU free movement of people. It's the law that says that you have the right to live in another EU country for more than 3 months if you either have a job or have sufficient resources to not become a burden on the social assistance systems of the welfare state of the host country and have your own comprehensive medical insurance. That is obviously gone now because we ended free movement of people. It also entitled EU citizens to have the same rights under the law as the people in the country they're moving to. Now, because that's gone post-Brexit, that means the EU citizens would have fewer rights in the UK than they'd have in any other country in Europe, which is one of the reasons we've struggled to recruit from the EU post-Brexit, which is aggravating our labour shortages across the economy, including making the NHS staffing crisis even worse. Which, given that we went through a pandemic almost immediately, getting rid of EU laws has definitely hurt us. The only reason I didn't stick to my guns on the EU Citizens' Rights Directive is because I couldn't remember the name of the UK version of it, because directives are basically EU laws that the member countries of the EU then have to copy in their home legislation.
That we've ditched, that we no longer have. Can you give me any examples of EU regulations that have now been disapplied? Can you give me any examples?
Well, you'd have to ask about the Chamber of Commerce.
There aren't any. Well, no, that's not correct. There were crumbs. There were tiny crumbs that we've got rid of.
Yeah.
But 99.5% we still have.
Is this part of
so
an
therefore, if we've had Brexit, but we've not ditched any EU legislation of substance, then doesn't that make it clear we haven't taken the benefits of Brexit?
That does the barriers that have been created in terms of trade are precisely because of
talking about legislation.
Yes, I know. The barriers to trade are because of the legislative distance. We're no longer part of the same legislative system.
But we haven't ditched any legislation.
Yes, but we're not. Our
so as you said, we're not part of the legislative system.
Hear me.
However, we still have all the legislation.
Because we're not part of the same legislative system, our products aren't automatically legal on the other side of the channel, and their products aren't automatically legal over here, which means there has to be red tape to check those products, which is what's damaging our trade, which you still refuse to answer.
You can't give me any legislation that we ditched.
What I should have asked him there is to name an EU law that he thinks we should remove in order to get these Brexit benefits, given that the Reform Party's policy is to get rid of all remaining EU law, which UK industries have said would cause catastrophic chaos. But I wanted to make sure that I nailed him on the fact that the party he supports was founded on a policy that is damaging the UK economy and making the cost of living crisis worse, and that's why I'm talking about Brexit.
You're still refusing to answer. Has Brexit damaged our trade?
Yes, because...
Yes, there we go.
So
After 15 minutes. It took 15 minutes for him to answer this question. Does damage to trade damage the economy? Does damage to trade damage the economy?
When the politicians, both Conservatives and Labour, don't apply
damage
Brexit,
the economy?
It does. When the politicians don't apply
okay, so Brexit has damaged the economy. Does damaging
not
the economy...
because of Brexit, because the politicians haven't applied
does damaging the economy...
That stupid. Come on, Sammy. I don't believe you're this
make
stupid.
The cost of living crisis worse?
I don't believe you're this stupid.
Does damaging the economy
stupid.
make the cost of living crisis worse?
When the politicians don't apply...
Does damaging the economy make the cost of living crisis worse? Answer the question. Does damaging the economy... I
don't know why I even bothered. I'm sure a lot of people will be asking me later, Steve, why did you bother speaking to him?
Does damaging the economy...
But I thought I'd give you a chance.
Does damaging the economy make the cost of living crisis worse?
Because the politicians don't apply Brexit.
Does damaging the economy make the cost of living crisis worse?
Gotcha after gotcha, don't you? Oh, he doesn't want to because he's parroting a line that he's obsessed with.
Does damaging the economy make the cost of living crisis worse?
Just stop breathing, damage your ability to live.
Damaging the economy.
So you think you've got one gotcha, don't you?
And
now you want another gotcha, don't you?
Does damaging the economy...
And then you'll probably edit it, won't you? And here's a reform supporter who said, Brexit was deleterious, and then that affects the economy.
Damaging the economy make the cost of living crisis worse?
Because of the Uni Party.
Yes or no?
George Galloway was spot on when he said Labour and Tories were the different cheeks of the same arse.
Yes
do you agree with George Galloway?
Does damaging the economy
do you agree with George Galloway?
Make the cost of living crisis worse?
Do you agree with George Galloway,
It's such a basic
about the Labour
question.
Party and the Conservative Party? Do you agree
damaging the economy make the cost of living crisis worse?
You're really not a very good interviewer.
That is a Reform Party supporter. That is what they're like. Look at him walking off now. Basic questions. He can't answer them, and so now he's off in a huff.
Can you imagine interrupting somebody at their place of work while they're doing their job because you're so desperate to have a conversation with them, and when they ask you a basic, completely inoffensive question, you storm off in a huff? Reform Party supporters really are a different breed of human. I'm Femi. Make sure you follow F Politics so politics doesn't F you. Have a great week.